Welcome to show number 84 of In Harmony with Nature. We're pre-recording this show on March the 20th, 1990. My name's Peter Shacklock, and I'm a volunteer here with Shaw Cable. But normally I'm behind the camera where I'm not seen. But tonight, Shalom Mandeville, our regular host, has asked me to take up the responsibilities of host and introduce our guest. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Bob Semple. You might say, Bob, that we're friends from long ago. It's probably about 15 years ago we met for the first time, but we hadn't seen each other in about as many years. And it was the show that you came on about 6 weeks ago and brought us back together. We met again. During that show, I believe it was underwater photography is your hobby, and you showed us some underwater shots of Peggy's Cove. What it'd be like to dive in the Maritimes here. So for tonight, we have more underwater shots?
Yes, what I thought I'd do, since I showed the Atlantic coast, the species we have on the Atlantic coast here, I thought I'd take us off to the Pacific coast, into the Baja region of Mexico, and we would look at what it'd be like to dive there, the type of species they have there. Unfortunately, I didn't get, my intentions was to get manta rays and hammerhead sharks, but we didn't get to dive with those, but we got some pretty good footage of some sea lions. So perhaps what we'll do is we'll go into the tape, and I'll describe the action as it's happening, and
okay.
Comment if you like, if there's questions that come up as we're watching it. So first we entered Mexico through Tijuana, and then we boarded the Mexicana airplane, and we flew from Tijuana to a little town called La Paz. La Paz just means the peace, and it's the biggest town in the Baja, Mexico. It's right on the Gulf of Cortez, or commonly known as the Gulf of California. The Gulf of California is a huge bay which runs up the inside of the peninsula. The water is warmer, it's rich in nutrients, marine life, and large pelagics like hammerhead sharks, manta rays, and other species are known to congregate there because it's so rich in sea life. So this is flying now right along the edge of the coast where we were actually to be diving in the next few days. We stayed right in La Paz, and we would take small boats out to the dive sites.
How far off the coast would you dive?
From La Paz, we would take a small, they call them small punts, and we would take them out about 20 miles from the town of La Paz, right out in the middle of nowheres. If you notice flying in the airplane, the mountains were bare. They're basically deserts with cactus and almost like you'd see in a desert, except it grows right up to the edge of the ocean. This is because they don't get much rainfall in this area. This is walking along the town of La Paz. This is the small boat that we got.
How many in the group?
Actually, there were just two of us and two guides, and the guides would take us out. It was a little bit scary because they had no spare motors, they had no flares, radios, first aid kits that I knew of, so our diving had to be very, very careful that we wouldn't get ourselves into trouble. And being 20 miles from nowheres, it would probably take a day before people realized we weren't in. So we took the boat out to the very tip of the peninsula, to a little set of islands called Las Ilotas, which means little islands in Spanish. And along these islands is very unique because it's so remote in the middle of nowhere. Sea lions gather, and they have a colony out here. And they like it here because they don't get disturbed by people. So we tried while we were diving not to disturb them too much. Matter of fact, we didn't go ashore. We just viewed them from our boats, and then we would go underwater and dive with them. On our first dive, we didn't go right to the sea lion colony. We decided to see the type of species in the area before we approached the colony, just so we get used to the diving.
There's not much plant life there, is there?
No, not compared to coral reefs. There are some type of corals, but as far as the type of, maybe a few hydrocorals, but it's a little too cold for corals. Corals don't grow very well under 70 degrees. and sometimes the temperature in this area could be between 60 and 70. This is a little crown of thorns, which was known to be a scourge of the coral reefs. It's a very spiny starfish, very, very sharp, and you handle it with great care. I decided to show off here. You see how it sticks to your hand, and I stuck it on my mask, but in doing so I pricked my finger and it brought some blood to my finger there. That's sharp. But like anything you disturb, I took it and placed it back in the area where I got it. Try to see that it wouldn't be disturbed. You try not to hurt the wildlife, anything you're disturbing too much. We swam to an arch in the rock, and this was my first experience. A female sea lion came swimming out to me, and very, very playful. Not scared of mankind at all. Very, very shy. Once they realized how slow, encumbered we were, if we were a bit faster as a shark, they'd probably be very, very wary. But this one would enable us to go right up to it and to take pictures of it. Visibility here was probably around 60 to 80 feet, which is really good visibility.
How deep would you be there?
It's probably in about 30 to 40 feet of water. As we swam through, you can see the arch, you can see the opening in the rock. We could swim right through to the other side, and the sea lion would play in front of us right in the mouth of this cave. Very, very graceful. They swim circles around you, just a little flick of their hind flippers. For an underwater photographer, seeing an animal this large, this is actually a mammal. It breathes air. It's not a fish. And to see something this large is very exciting. And I've seen them before during other dives in other locations, but usually you see them only for a few seconds, and they're gone.
What do they feed on? Is there much
They
food?
feed on various things: squid, small fish, schools of fish. They do most of their hunting at night, and during the day they just lay on the rocks in sun and swim around. I'm sure if they could get a feed, they would. If we probably brought fish with us, but again, we try not to disturb them by getting them used to humans feeding them. It's better that they stay in like a pristine environment. This little fish here is an angelfish. It's called a Cortez angelfish. It's unique to the area. It's like our queen angels or something that we have on the east side in the Caribbean, but it's unique in color and shape. And they feed on the corals. You can see tiny corals like hard corals there, but not in any great amount. The area is really, the rocks are really quite barren, but the amount of fish life, the variety of fish life is just tremendous, as much as a coral reef.
Why is there no plant life like the kelps?
Well, probably because the fish, too warm probably for the northern kelps, right. But for the smaller algae, I would think they'd be grazed on by other fish. You could find small tufts of algae, but I think the fish are so numerous that they would feed on the algae. You notice that it's so warm that one can just dive in a bathing suit. It's, here I think the temperature was around close to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. These small fish off in the background are called doctorfish. On the east coast in the Caribbean, they're called surgeonfish. They have little slits in their tail that will come out like a razor blade, and if attacked, these little blades will stick out and cut the enemy that's trying to attack them. But they are larger than the Caribbean fish. They're really quite large, and you notice again they can be approached quite readily by a diver. Really relatively shy. I mean, not very shy.
Not used to having humans around? I
think so. As I say, this is a really fairly remote area of the Baja. And again, here's the probably a famous known denizen of the deep known as a green moray. They look very ferocious with their big mouths and sharp teeth opening. and people see them, they think they're going to attack or bite them. The opening of the mouth is actually just a form of breathing, taking in water through their gills, and they have to do that. They are relatively shy. They hunt mainly at night. They are quite aggressive. I have hand-fed them, and they will grab things out of your hand. You don't try to fight with them over food, but they would not. I've never been bitten by one, and usually the only moray eels that do bite are the tame ones that think your hand is food.
So they're used to being fed at that position.
In the Caribbean, at dive resorts, they hand feed them for the tourists who come. Again, this guy here has probably never been hand fed. Another thing that was rare that happened during this dive is that he swam out of the cave, and we were able to film him in the open, which is kind of rare. You only see them usually out during the night, and it's kind of unique to see how they swim. They have like a ribbon-like movement to their body, and they're very graceful, but also very fast. You notice that there's a fish, the angelfish is right beside him, and I would assume maybe fish that he doesn't normally feed on are not scared of him. So you can almost tell which ones he feeds on by the way they react as he swims by. You see here the method in which he swims, yeah. Very, very fast and very sneaky. They run into a cave head first, and if you're following them and you look in the cave, he's already turned around and facing right towards you as you enter the cave. They do it very, very quick. I guess that's a method of defense. But the moray is this one is probably about at least 5 to 6 feet long. And it's the green morays grow much bigger than some of the spotted morays. Now here's a unique thing. Now we start to approach the colony on the way back towards the boat, and a unique thing happens here. And let me tell you, it was an experience of a lifetime. As we approach, the young females in the colony and the young ones are on the outside, and all of a sudden here comes the male bull, 700 pounds. He would charge right at the camera and come within inches of the camera, barking. And I'm talking about being scared. You just hang on to the camera. He blows bubbles to define his area, his territory, and as if to say, don't come inside this area, I'm protecting my young. So you just hang on there and hope that he's not going to knock you over the head. And it was quite an experience the first few times until you get used to it. He seemed to get used to us, realizing that we're as clumsy as we are. Look, this young guy seems to swim around us saying, see, my dad told you a thing or two. And as I say, they just can put you to shame in how fast they can swim. He seems that the males grow up 700-800 pounds, which this one would be at least 700. Here he comes towards the camera. And they have maybe 6 or 7 females. And the young, this is in the fall now, after the young are partially grown. They're born in the spring, and by the fall they're nice and young and love to fool around. So during the springtime, the bull sea lion can be quite dangerous. They will probably even chase you away, even bite you in the leg and shake you to scare you away. During this time of year, it's quite safe. He chases the other diver just folds over because it is quite scary. But never in all the time that we were diving did he even touch us. I mean, he came. I'll show you in a second how close he actually came in a stop format to get you an idea. And they have such control over their bodies that they wouldn't even touch you. Here he comes now. Watch this. He comes just within inches of that strobe.
Seems to always veer the same way each time.
Yeah.
It's always
yeah. And he would sometimes come the other way though, and then he'd blow the bubbles, as if to say, you can see almost like a little curtain of bubbles. They can dive to fairly great depths and also stay for quite a bit of time. Here he is kind of making known he doesn't notice me, then he sneaks over the top of the rock. And then you can see he comes right in and bumps his nose. Now I'll show you from a side view how close he comes to my strobe. I'm just kind of bending over there, just hoping he doesn't hit me. After he got used to our presence, he would just stay and relax with us around. I have other shots of him just floating. I got within just a few inches of it, just relaxing. He became quite used to our presence. But usually the bigger bulls, they each have their different areas. There's probably one bull to each area. They each have a very special territory. And sometimes you see a lot of the younger bulls, which are probably 500 or 600 pounds, swimming offshore. They don't dare come near. This is the bull lion now sunning himself. They get up in the sun to get their heat back. They warm their bodies up before they go back.
Take it from the boat, please.
Yes, yeah. This is between dives. We were relaxing and we just would watch the community of sea lions. Sometimes you'd think there's nothing underwater until you pop underwater and you see the water full of them. You know, you think there's nothing around. This colony probably has between 80 and 80 to 100 sea lions in this colony here. And if there's a lot of pressure from divers or humans, I think they would move off, try to find even a remote area further away. Here he is relaxing now. You can see how he's no longer afraid. You see some scars on the back of his tail there from fighting. You see, he's no longer, as I say, he's no longer feels that we're a threat, and he just gradually glides around just to let him know that he's still there. If we would dare to touch one of the young ones, I'm sure we'd be attacked so quick and chased out of there. You know. During our second dive, the water was about probably between 15 and 20 feet here, which means that one of these tanks lasted 2 hours. We would get long amounts of time underwater, and we spent hours with them. And so they become very used to us. And we came to a series of caves here, and you can see just by the reactions, the young ones now come out to see who we are, what we're doing, and they would come out to test us out. And they're just like dogs. Once they realize that we're okay, and once one guy comes and does something, then they'll all come and do it. Once they say, oh, if he'll do it and get away with it, we can all do it. So you can see them moving a little bit closer all the time. The photographer, or not the photographer, the diver was with me. I actually carried my camera around, and we would exchange video and still photography. So I got underwater stills of them too, as well as video.
Is this one of the ones you entered in the contest?
Yes, yeah. Matter of fact, I think I probably even show the shot that I took on video. The diver was filming me while I took the picture. Sometimes you can get an idea of techniques sometimes by just watching how you set up for a picture. Here he comes. He comes right into my camera now. And they've got big whiskers. And when they rub against your hand, see, now here he comes right up to the mast, rubs his hand. Now, as soon as he does, the rest say, hey, it's okay now. We can, and those whiskers tickle. And it's hard to hold your hand out and allow them to, to feel your hand. But they look like dogs. And as you know, they're very easily trained. And as you asked me earlier, they're used in marine shows because they're much easier than regular seals because they can stand up and bark and they can do all kinds of tricks because they have very strong front flippers.
Any movement will attack them, or is that?
Yeah, it's just so sometimes the way you hold your hand also can be threatening. So he's just kind of, he knows he holds his hand inwards rather than outwards, and just to try not to show a threatening movement. And I know what he's going through. As I say, they really tickle you. They love to show off. Sometimes what I would do is I'd imitate them, and they'd do circles around me, and I'd do spins and turns too, and as if they laugh at you, They say, look at him, and then they come back and do something else in front of you again. Now, we went into this cave here, and we spent a considerable time in the cave, and they become very used to you, and they wanted to almost like pose for the camera, blow bubbles. So here I am taking the pictures. This is very similar to the picture which I took for the contest. But they almost fight for position. One would line up and they'd say, hey, how come you're spending too much time with him? I want to have my picture taken too. And this little guy would sit on his hind flippers and pose like a puppy. Another guy would come along, he'd chase him away and say, look, this is my spot. And then he says, you go get your own spot. And the other guy goes further down the line. He'll sit up like on his hind flippers.
Are these the young ones or full grown?
Yes, these are the young ones. These probably only weigh around 50 to 100 pounds. The females, full-grown, weigh about 500 pounds, and the males weigh about 800, maybe up to 1,000 pounds, maybe the really big bulls.
Usually about 4 or 5 young each time, I think?
Probably, yeah. Well, they would just seem to come out of the cracks, so you'd not know how many there were. I mean, I think in the video I can see as many as 6 at a time. And they all would take turns going up to the surface to get a breath of air.
You're usually associated with one bull and one female?
Well, one bull, he would have 3 or 4 females. And I think all the young become part of that colony. So I don't know whether they have the one mom looks after them. I'm not really too sure about the biology there. What I do now is we would look around and look to the outside of us. Now, all the young ones are inside. Now, you notice the difference? To the outside, there's the females, close to the inside, and then to the very outside is the male. The male would, I think you see the big bull male swim by here, just to let us know that he's still looking at us. But he allowed us on the inside of the colony, which was really kind of nice. It was kind of unique. Notice when you have your back turned to them, they come up and they try to grab your hair, and some even try to, they have taken the snorkel and torn the snorkel and the mask right off the diver's face and ran away with it and hid it. So they're very, very playful. They didn't, but they did try a couple times. I know they tried to bite my mask strap when I wasn't looking. They'll come up and, as I say, they imitate you sometimes by blowing bubbles. There, see, blew bubbles and I blew some back. They all fight for attention, you know. It's too bad. It'd be fun to pat them, but they really wouldn't let you. Maybe if you got really used to them, I would put out my hand, and they would imitate by moving their flipper, but they wouldn't allow you to touch them.
How often would they have seen a diver?
That's a good question. I would probably say maybe 100 divers a year. Would go to the spot.
Favorite spot.
It'll become more popular as it's become a little bit better known. I had to ask. I knew when I went to the Baja, there's a couple of things I wanted to do. One was dive with the sea lions, and I could dive with them every day. I could go out there. They're so playful. They're always doing something new and different every day. I have approximately, I think, about 6 hours of underwater video of them. So I'm just showing you just a portion of one of the dives. And probably the cutest, because this was where they really interact with us.
And this was your second time down, so it would be just 2 hours into your visit?
Yes, this is the very second dive. This was the first day. We stayed down for so long. The two guides on the boat thought something happened to us, and they started heading around the corner of the island to find us. We were under these caves, and they couldn't see our bubbles. And we had to come out. We heard the boat going by, and we had to come out and say, "Hey, we're still here." They had thought we were long gone. But just relaxing. If you notice our breath, like we're hardly even breathing, and at the depth of 15 feet, these tanks seem to last for really a long time.
Nice warm water, so you're not.
Yeah. I'm wearing the bottom part of a wetsuit. That's just so when you're a photographer, you like to sit on rocks, not because it was too cold, but just so I don't get my knees banged up on the rocks and cut and things like that. You can see the entrance of this cave. I stayed at the entrance shooting my buddy on the outside. But unless they're really disturbed, by overpressure or diving, that this colony will stay there, and provide fun for divers. I've had a few people from Nova Scotia actually go down since I've come back. I think I've known two people have went out and dived with the sea lions.
Seems like they either sun themselves or they're underwater fooling around.
Yeah, and I never saw any hunting or anything like that going on during the day. And I saw them with schools of fish. As I swim through these caves here, you see they just pop out of everywhere. Where they come out the sides, and where you think you say there was only 2 of them there, and now there's they'll come out of the different sides and crevices. So we decided to head back, but there's still even lots to see outside. There's quite a variety of marine life just on the outside of the caves. It's unique to see such good visibility in just barren rocks. Few sea anemones, sea urchins, and starfish. There's another large moray eel. Those little fish you see swimming around him there are cleaner fish. They will actually go inside the mouth of the moray eel and clean them, and the moray will not eat them. And sometimes we've seen them clean other fish too. So we finished the dive, and then we headed back. During some of our dives, we went to we stayed on the peninsula here. Like there's a series of islands here, and we had lunch actually right on the island, and we got a chance to tour the desert. So I just thought I'd show you just a few scenes. The ocean goes right up to the desert, and not much moisture, and there's cactus and all sorts of other forms of life. You know, this is a different boat now. We went it with some Americans on another day, and they took two larger boats. We had more divers here. On this day, we dived on a shipwreck, and maybe at another time I would show you the marine life which is in this area around shipwrecks. This island is El Spiritu Santos, or the Spirit of the Saints island.
That was very nice, Bob. How long have you been diving, and how long have you had the camera? Two questions at once.
That's a good question. I've been diving a little over about 26 years now, ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Very, very young. And with a camera, I guess probably even when I started diving, I had a simple little Instamatic camera.
Oh, really?
It probably wasn't until the last 10 years that I really seriously got into underwater photography. So I would say 10 years probably.
With a still camera, and then you moved on to the...
Yeah, video is only in the last couple of years now.
Yeah.
And it's a good, video is actually very good. As you saw, the photographer there who was doing half that photography was a novice. He'd never had a video camera in his hands before.
Yeah.
And so the pictures of me filming, it was all taken by a novice. So it's a good thing to begin in, I think, for good quality pictures. Anybody can pick up that sport.
It's an 8mm camera?
Yeah.
Special underwater housing, or is it just a housing?
No, it's a special underwater housing. And the way things are advancing today, they now have an 8mm camera that's even finer. It's called High 8. Mm-hmm. And it's a little more expensive, but very high quality. It's higher resolution than the normal television set.
Okay, so you've shown us Peggy's Cove. You showed us the Baja. Have you taken any diving underneath the ice? Or?
Yeah, I've done some. Maybe another time I can show some of the diving. Yeah. It's also interesting in habitat of itself, how the animals change during the winter cycle.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been asked to wrap it up, so thanks, Bob. Our guest today has been Bob Semple, and I'd like to thank Shalom for giving me the opportunity to take the responsibility as being host, and encourage all the listeners to watch next week for another In Harmony with Nature. Thank you.